Welcome to the EdTech Unpacked podcast, where we inspire and equip educators to create meaningful learning experiences, highlighting a thoughtful approach to the integration of technology as we teach and transform the lives of our students. I'm Desmond Suarez.
And I'm Aaron Long, and we are passionate about helping educators learn how to better use technology to engage their students. But today, we're going to be talking about how to pass that knowledge and passion onto your students with some really great free and easy tools. But before we do that, Desmond, we'd like to do something here where we get to know each other a little bit better. And so we're going to do that through some fun questions here. And today's question is this. Are you ready for it?
I think so.
All right. So I want you to tell us about a time when technology failed you the most.
Man, I wish I could say never. Can I just do that? I'd be lying.
I think the answer to that's obvious. So yeah, let's dig in a little deeper here and hear a real time where it failed you.
Yeah. So I'll tell a quick story. It seems like every time whenever I go to a city on a trip, I always like to take public transit whenever possible, and like explore the city. But it seems like every time I do that, my phone will be working great and beautiful. And then I go into a city, and when I need it the most, I'm lost. I need to call a ride. It just decides it doesn't work anymore for that time period. It works fine later. I don't know if it's just me. Maybe it's an Android thing. I'm not going to admit that. But when we were in Phoenix last, we went to a convention. I had rented a car. It was before everything started. And I rented a car and then went to return the car. And at the airport, and on the way back, I was like, I'm going to take the public transit and then call an Uber partway down. And because I wanted to take some of it, but not all of it, complicated reasons. But I took the first leg of the public transit, and I got off, and I went to the place where you call the Uber, and my phone just had no data, just nothing. Like, and it was late at night now. And I was like, I'm in a strange city. It's late at night. It's hot. And it just didn't work. And so I started freaking out because I didn't know the place. I didn't know what to do. It was too far to walk. And so finally I decided to go backtrack myself. And I ended up backtracking a little ways, and my phone started working again. And I was able to, I ended up taking public transit the rest of the way back. But it failed me. I think it might've been a fake tower. I don't know what it was. But yeah, it really failed me when I needed it. How about you?
Okay. I have a lot of really good ones, but, I was trying to think of something like from the classroom side of things, that was kind of like a critical moment in the classroom setting. This wasn't actually while I was actively teaching, but, so my first place I ever taught, Vista Ridge Academy, which was formerly Boulder Junior Academy in Boulder, Colorado. When I was there, we built a new campus, and it became Vista Ridge. Well, we started a tradition, I think it predated me, where we would have a big dinner theater, and our upper grades students, 7th through 10th grade, would put on a dinner theater. Well, one of the last years I was there, we decided to shoot a little video that would accompany the dinner theater. So it'd be kind of like this thematic thing. It would play some video, and then there'd be some dinner theater. And so they would kind of create a story together. Well, how we do as teachers, last minute editing, right? Night before kind of thing. All right. And so we're sitting there, brand new building. It was like, everything about the place was gorgeous and beautiful. Sitting there editing, and a big storm rolls through. And maybe you can imagine where this is going, but most of the way done with the project. And, at this point in my life, I hadn't done a lot of video editing, so this was still new to me. And huge lightning strike, power outage, sitting there in the dark, just literally saying a prayer that, God, help this work out somehow. And power comes back on, machines reboot. As you might imagine, come to find out, I lost everything. And so that was the failure. Night before, okay. So my wife was out of town at the time, and so I was like, well, I could pull an all-nighter here. But before I did that, I walk in our server room, and that's when we discovered that our server was plugged directly in the wall. There was no power back up. So the server was fried. And and everything was connected to the server. It was a network storage kind of situation. Well, long story short, we pulled it off, but it was definitely an all-nighter kind of situation of re-editing all that footage from scratch. So it went from devastating to kind of one of those heroic moments where, you pull together and you make it happen. And so, but man, I think we've all been there before where we've been failed by technology. And I hope that you're never sitting there in the middle of the night in an electrical storm wondering how you're going to start over, because I was pretty desperate that night.
For sure. And I won't do it for time, but maybe one day you have to tell us how you guys rebuilt the server or something, because that sounds awful as well. But it's funny how oftentimes the technology failures are actually us human failures.
Right. Where you plug the machine in.
Plug the machine in. But anyways, I hope we want to do those little segments, these questions to help you get to know us better. So if you have questions, send them to us, the ones that you want us to discuss and tell our terrible stories. But now let's unpack the tech. All right. So I want to talk about the first time I taught AP computer science principles. And well, I guess let me introduce the theme a little more before I get into there. Today, we're going to be talking about not just Hour of Code. Maybe you tuned into this because you've done Hour of Code, but taking Hour of Code, which I'll explain a little further. So if you don't know, it's coming. Hour of Code and how to extend that into more places within your curriculum and your classes. How to get more computer science, more Hour of Code stuff. And related material into your curriculum. But I've always, both Aaron and I have always used a lot of technology. It's why we're doing this podcast. We love technology. But the first time I taught the AP Computer Science Principles class, which is an awesome class to teach your high schoolers if you're into technology, I found code.org. I think I'd heard of it before, but it was the first time I really used it. And I was so impressed with it. And that's going to be our kind of our main feature of this episode. But it is free, which is, did you hear me? Free. Free. But there's a lot of free things out there that you don't want. Yeah. This is not one of them. It's free, amazing quality, tools, everything is so well put together. In fact, I wish they could make more of other curriculum I use, like if they could put their tools around there. They have amazing production quality of videos. They have important people that Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg and a lot of athletes and computer programmers, both men and women and all sorts of races represented in their media and very high quality production. So they have videos that accompany a lot of their lessons. They have really easy to understand activities, both from the instructor and the students. And probably most important, their pedagogy is really strong. The way they teach you how to teach and the way they guide that is really strong. Because those other things can be good, but if it's not good to teach, then it's not good. And we'll demonstrate some of it in a bit. But before we do, Aaron, you want to share your experience with code.org?
Yeah, or my limited experience. I was joking with Desmond here as we were getting ready for this episode. He's our power user. I'm along for the ride for this episode, you guys. So if you don't have a lot of experience, look, you and I are in the same boat on this one. But what was funny was I logged into code.org just to kind of refresh because it's been a while. If and you're going to see here in a second. So Desmond and I were actually on a call while I was logging in, and I was like, wow, man, these kids here that were in my last class that I taught where I used code.org, they were in 7th grade at the time. They're now college seniors. So do the math on that one. We're talking like 9 to 10 years ago was the last time I actually had a class set up in code.org. And I was telling Desmond, it was for Hour of Code. That's what got me into using code.org in the beginning. And I loved it, but we primarily used it for Hour of Code. And so I love that this segment, this episode, we're going to be taking, kind of that that appeal that many of you have heard, join us for Hour of Code. And then how do you extend that into a more authentic integration in your classroom? Incredible tools. And I told Desmond, man, the whole suite of tools that they offer is totally changed and 10x'd. I mean, it's incredible. In fact, if you look at their funding, we wanted to highlight this because, wow, they are crushing it with their supporters. So we're taking a look here at their supporters page, and we'll link to that in the show notes. They're platinum supporters. You've got Amazon, Google, Microsoft, other names I don't recognize here, but to be a platinum supporter, those are $3 million plus supporters. Their gold supporters are $1 million plus supporters. Lots of names you're going to recognize there, and then tons and tons of others. I mean, we're probably in the $30-40 million range if I'm just ballparking this. So it is free to us, but it is not free to build. So the amount of resources that they have behind this product, we don't like to just kind of like highlight one product, and this episode is not highlighting just one product, but obviously code.org is so rich with resources. We definitely wanted to take a special bit of time here to really highlight all that it offers you. So pretty incredible what they're doing.
And I think it's cool, like, why are they free? Why are these people giving them money? Well, it's because, it's not just because they want to be nice people. Nothing against these companies, but Amazon, Google, Microsoft, and all the others. I mean, some of them are like the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation or the Ballmer Group. These are nonprofits. But the companies that are supporting them, they need there to be more people who know about computer programming and computer science, so that they can hire these people, so that they can create a educated workforce. And so it's kind of cool that I want my students educated. They do too. And the product, when you do code.org, it's not like they're pushing a single service. It's not here's the Google thing. It's a curriculum like you would expect a curriculum. But if you scroll all the way down, here's a goal for us, Aaron, the $1,000 one. EdTech Unpacked needs to be there. We'll get there. We got to get you guys to support us enough as a sponsor.
I want
EdTech Unpacked there as a $1,000 sponsor. I think we can do that. Right. I think we can get there.
Let's put that on our really lofty goal list there. I like it.
Really lofty goal. I think we can get there. And maybe I should just put the goal as 3 million, because if we have 3 million to give code.org, then we're rocking it.
Well, Desmond, if we're ever going to get there, what needs to happen? If you're watching right now, you need to like and subscribe, right? And of course, set your notifications, because we can't get there if we don't have people tuning in here. All right. So there we go.
Completely true. Completely true. All right. Well, I want to talk about why we should extend Hour of Code. And I had a quote that I thought really encapsulated a lot of this, of why I think it's important. It's important for a lot of reasons, but this is from Steve Jobs. And it says, everybody in this country should learn to program a computer because it teaches you how to think. And I think this is a really valuable thing, is not all of your students are going to become computer programmers. I hope they don't, because we need people who do other things. We don't want everyone to be a computer programmer. I think it's valuable to have more computer programmers, and it's a great career for your students to pursue. But more importantly, it helps you think in a new way, in an analytical way, in a constructive way. If you've done computer programming before, you know what I'm talking about, because there's a certain way of thought when you are coding. If you haven't yet, I hope that you take this opportunity to dive in even just a little, for you to experience what it's like to do some basic coding. Go on Hour of Code and try some of these things. But it's also, it's a way of thinking.
100%. And it's not just a way of thinking, but I think there's even an element of creativity involved in this, because you're taking problems, whether that is a lot of the experiences within code.org, maybe you're programming a video game using drag and drop style, Blockly blocks and chunks. But there's a lot of ways oftentimes to solve the same problem. So there's an element of, logical progressional thinking fused with creativity, because lots of ways to do it. So it's neat to see what the kids come up with.
Yeah, creativity is a big part of it. I think it's a good time I'll tell this story, but a few years ago at our school, we had an English teacher In fact, I think I'm going to say her name. I didn't get permission, but she's going to like a call out. Callie Williams was an amazing teacher, English teacher, right? No computer programming experience prior. And I was teaching the AP Computer Science Principles, which is like a college level class-ish that you teach to high schoolers. And so, I was sharing what we were doing in class, and she kept asking me questions. And I had heard through some of my training and stuff that the English teachers make great teachers for the computer science principles class. And so I was telling her some of that stuff, and she was asking more and more. And long story short, I feel a little guilty and a little proud of this. But she ended up stopping to teach. And I feel guilty because she was a fantastic teacher. Stopped teaching, going back and learning about computer programming. And now she is a computer programmer. And I just think that's a really cool story.
I do think we need to
also, I'm a little mad at you, Callie.
Yeah, right. So I also think we need to qualify this, though, Desmond, that is not our goal with this episode, right? We do not want anybody out there listening, watching today, to even think about stopping teaching. That's not the goal. It's more about integration. No. So feel proud, but feel more guilty than proud. And so that's fine if you feel a little proud, feel a lot guilty, and then we'll just keep it there. Everyone that's teaching now, we want you teaching. We need good teachers in the classroom.
Yeah. And I tell that story now because you were right about the creativity. She's an incredibly creative person. I think that she was likely turned off from computer stuff earlier, computer science programming, because she was so creative and wanted to do those kind of expressions. And I think that especially for, I think women are often pressured away from programming culturally, societally, because it seems like something all the boys do. And I hate that philosophy. I hate that way of thinking. I really encourage my girl students. I don't want to overpressure anyone, but I always encourage my girl students, maybe a little more than my boys, because I feel like they need a little extra encouragement to really program, and to get into computer science, to try it. And some of my best students have been girls. And I was telling Aaron earlier, I got this award that I'm proud of, but also I wish it wasn't an award. I wish it was just the default. It's really gotten a glare on the light. But it's from the College Board, who manages the AP courses. And it's for female diversity, because I have had girls in my class, and it was for 1 year, but I've taught this class like 4 or 5 times, and I've had girls in it every time who've done fantastic. And so that's another reason why I think computer science in K-12 is so important, because unless we do that, girls and other students who might think that it's for computer science is only for one group might never have the opportunity to experience it and realize and find a passion that they really enjoy.
What a great point to emphasize here, because classroom teachers, this is a calling to you specifically. And I just want to point out, a lot of times kids get into high school and you can take these optional classes, AP courses and whatnot. But again, like Desmond's pointing out, let's bring it back a few years, junior high, even elementary. You're talking about everybody's together. You have these opportunities to spark interest, to reduce barriers, so that later when they have the opportunity to opt into these accelerated or advanced courses, that interest has already been sparked. So wow, what a powerful message to each of our classroom teachers listening right now, to really compel you to further explore how you can integrate this a bit into your classroom. Doesn't have to be extensive.
Yeah, I love that.
Listen.
No, but an introduction.
Absolutely.
Because you're right. When you get to high school, computer science can be an opportunity to be a pullout for you to choose. But if you integrate it into other classes, especially in lower classes, then the students are given it and they get to try it before they're choosing it. All right, so here's another point, is that most every job and education system in the world is very dependent on computers and electronic devices. And so understanding how those work at a fundamental level, I think really helps you to work with the machines better. It helps manage expectations, that they can't do certain things, but that they can do other things, and how to use them.
And I'm going to emphasize that point just a little bit. Not everybody probably is comfortable doing website management. One of the areas that I'm responsible for is managing our website. Desmond has a lot of experience in that area as well. I'm not a coder. I'm not a programmer. But through my limited exposure, I know enough to be able to modify code, whether that's for dropping in, a frame, an iframe, or other elements of code injection. You don't have to be a coder to understand how to do some modification if you have just a bit of experience. It's very logical type of thinking. And so I just wanted to emphasize that, because there's a lot of people who maybe they're held back from being able to do certain jobs or roles that they might enjoy, because maybe they're just missing some small pieces. And we're not talking big chunks. We're not talking full-on programming or coding.
Mm-hmm. All right, one last. Can you do this last one?
All right, so here we go. AI. This is something that, Desmond and I were talking. We could literally probably just stop every 5 or 10 episodes and do a new episode on AI. It's just really exploding, which we might. We've honestly been talking about that very thing. It's so quickly being integrated into every aspect of our lives. It's just amazing. Could be scary, right? If nothing else, it's fascinating. But it's really important to understand the basics of how it works, so that you know what it is and what it isn't capable of doing.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And so some of the stuff we'll talk about here can help, is some AI specific lessons, and can help students understand, what it is and what it isn't. It's a great way of saying it. All right. So I want to get into some of the application. And so I'm going to go through, and what I want to do is start the very most basic. So if you stay here, we'd like to really encourage you guys. If you just do this one thing, which all it really does is just give you an hour break once a year. And so the most basic is just you giving your students a link and say, have fun. But yeah, if you go to the most basic or the more advanced of teaching full classes on it, that's fine. But the reason you might have tuned in here, maybe you already know it, is as Hour of Code. Hour of Code, I didn't know this, but it's a celebration of, I don't know how I missed this, because one of my heroes, Grace Hopper, which if you know much about computer science, I guess going back to our previous conversation, 150 years ago, I don't know exactly, Ada Lovelace was the first person to conceptualize of computer programming before computers existed. She worked with Charles Babbage, who first conceptualized and made physical hardware computers, like no electricity. And she worked with him, and she was really the one to conceptualize the idea of computer programming. And then Grace Hopper,
by the way, she died in 1852. So we're talking,
a lot longer.
Wow, that's a long time ago.
Yeah. Ada Lovelace is a fascinating person, a little crazy, but in an awesome way. And Grace Hopper, who I would not call crazy, she was very buttoned up and awesome. But from what I know about her, maybe she was a little crazy. I need to know more about her personal life. But Grace Hopper was the first one. She was the one that really invented, to make it simple, modern computer programming. And so two females, which is also cool. Hour of Code is a celebration of Grace Hopper's birthday.
And fun fact, she was born in 1906 and died in 1992, lived to be 85 years old. So the 1900s.
She's really cool. It. These two women, very different, but had huge impacts. I would say the most important computer programmers ever to exist. And so Hour of Code is a celebration of her birthday. In December, take a break, do 1 hour in December. It's supposed to be the week of December 9, and just have your students go to, we'll link it in there, but hourofcode.com. And there's a bunch of activities, and you could give them specific ones, or you could just have them pick one. You can sort by grade level or age. There's a whole bunch of filters. I will say, Aaron, going back to a discussion that we have kind of regularly, I have a 6-year-old at home. I was like, and my son, this is the perfect time to test out some of these things. And so I just handed him my iPad Pro with Hour of Code on it. And I said, just pick, just go and explore. And most of them didn't work on iPads without installing an app and having an account.
Oh, currently?
I was a little disappointed.
You know what's amazing about that
we were
story?
trying this on Sunday.
I'm like, well, I have so many questions. Was your iPad updated, et cetera, et cetera? Because get this.
No, it wasn't.
When I first started with Hour of Code, I did the same thing with my son. So this was, he was probably 5th grade at the time, because just looking at the student list here that I had at that time, he would have been about 5th grade. Just threw him on an iPad. We're an iPad school. But all of my students, this was rolled out on iPads even 9-ish years ago. So that's shocking to me. I just have so many questions about your preparedness with your iPad. But hey, we're going to let it go. We'll accept that.
What it was, I'll just say what it was they kept taking me to the App Store. Like I'd click on a link and you go to play it and it wanted you to install the app. And then the most important one, or not most, but the most common one was Codable, spelled with a K. I've never used it before. It looks pretty good. Maybe I'll have to check it out further. Except that I was a little frustrated with this part of it. Codable, if you hear this, just as a parent teacher, this was frustrating to me. Is that I would install, I eventually went to install the app because it kept popping up. And there was others. It wasn't the only one, but it was the most common one. And it made me create an account, or install the app and then create an account. And then it wanted me to pay $25 a month. As a parent, I could have created an account as a teacher, which I did because I'm a teacher. Okay. I wasn't trying to cheat the system too much. But then it still wouldn't work at home. I don't know. I didn't want to spend too much time on it. I got frustrated. He got frustrated. We moved on. But I would have Codable. Give me a 7-day free trial. I might pay that per month, but I couldn't even try out the apps to know if it was worth paying for. So please, 7-day free trial.
That's a fair request.
I would have.
I hope to hear that.
Yeah,
request.
I think it's a fair request. Codable, please. Like, I understand you got to make money. I'm not upset about that, but I want to know if I should be the one giving you the money. Sorry, I rant over. But I will say I use the same ones on Chrome on my Mac, and they worked fine. So yeah, just a little heads up. You might want to check on your platform, see if they're working, because that could change. But Hour of Code is a great way just to have your kids play with it. They'll learn activities at any grade level. From, I think, kindergarten, they have pre-readers is what they call it, all the way up through high school.
Even though this is a soft, easy entry into coding, I'll just mention, Desmond and I really flirted with how much do we bring into this episode regarding coding and other coding platforms, from Lego, Spark to Sphero, Ozobots. All great tactile, real-world, crossover coding-based learning experiences. But we're going to make that a future episode because we thought, you know what, there's too much here. And obviously, we've already talked for a bit because we want to frame this for you. So we're going to do that in a future episode. So lower grade teachers in particular, don't think we're missing out on that or leaving it out. We're just saying we're going to get to it later.
There's so many things we want to talk about. We have to limit ourselves.
That's right.
So the next one, and this is just one example. I've gotten another one that I'll describe that I couldn't find right now. But doing physical coding games. So it doesn't always have to be on the computer. I think it's really good to do some things digital and some things physical. And it's often good to introduce the things digital first. So if you're willing to put a little more effort out, and maybe this could be like, I know especially in lower elementary, they do centers. Maybe you could find, make one of your centers or one of your pullouts, one that's more coding focused. This is one that I bought. I found it on sale somewhere. And we'll link it. We'll give the Amazon link in the show notes. But it's by ThinkFun, and it's Code Programmer Game Series, and it even says perfect game for Hour of Code. And it's pretty simple. It has this little board on it that you put your programming pieces on. And it's like turn right, turn left kind of stuff. Go straight. You got to put them in the right color. And it has these challenges that you're supposed to make your robot move along. And this will be a great game to have like 2 kids play together, like trade off. One of them program, one of them run it. And run the program, or it would be a great kind of like small group activity. And there's a similar one that I bought years ago. I don't know where it is right now, but it was a similar idea, but it had this little motorized mouse, and you would push the buttons in the order you wanted them, and then it would go on this track in the order you programmed it. And that's very basic programming. Both of those are geared towards lower grades, probably first grade, second grade, all the way up to maybe fourth grade. And those are a great way to get like off the screen, but also integrating these ideas and helping them think that way.
Well, and so Desmond, now I feel like we have to at least link to those other ones I'm mentioning too, because you're right, but you're tiptoeing into this realm. We'll go ahead and drop some links to the other things I was alluding to there. At least Ozobots and some of the Lego products out there built for classrooms in particular. Very basic, really similar in nature to what you're talking about, different form factors. So we'll go ahead and leave some links and fully cover it later.
Sounds great. All right, now I want to come back to code.org and I'll share my screen, and I'll be generous to those who are listening and not just watching. But on code.org, they have so many different that's what we really struggled on. Like, is this an episode about a product or is it an idea? And we're going to talk about other competitors and other options. But they have things for anything from kindergarten all the way up through 12th grade. The one thing that I think is really cool, which I really want to focus on or really celebrate for you guys, is you can also pick how long you want it. So they have lessons that go from like a single lesson, one lesson, like 1 hour, or it says on here, it says 0 to 1.5 hours, single lessons all the way up to a full school year, anything from a week, month, quarter, semester, full school year. And so if you just do one lesson, an important thing that you should talk to your students about is artificial intelligence. And so they have a single lesson about artificial intelligence, and it's great. I just did it myself as a student this afternoon, and it is, and I'd done it kind of a part of it before, and it's a great introduction. If you look into this, let me assign it. Oh no, I think I have it. Okay, I have it here. Nope, that's not it. AI Oceans. Okay. And if I go to this lesson, it has a video, which I'll let you watch, but all their videos are Creative Commons, so I could see it. And the cool thing is, as a teacher, you could download the video. So if you're like offline for some reason, or you want to save it, you're worried about losing it, it's embedded on YouTube, or it's downloadable. And I love how like everything they have is downloadable. So it's a beautiful video that describes how machine learning, which is a kind of AI, works. And then they have these really cool activities. I'm going to turn off the audio because it's kind of loud. That's kind of crazy. It's real. It is good audio. I'll turn it down low. Maybe
engaging sound. I like that.
So you're training an AI. So you're training, this first one is you're training whether it is a fish or not. And the way you do that is it has a checkbox at the bottom, like it will show you a picture. And so I'm giving you for audio listeners, it'll show you an image of something. Right now, it's showing me a fork. And I've got to tell it whether it's a fish or not a fish. That's all we're doing. And so I'm going to say not a fish. I'm going to do this correctly. Not a fish. Fish. Oh, I clicked the wrong one, which is actually a good example. Not a fish. All right, and it goes on, tells me some stuff about plastics, because the whole story is you're trying to keep plastics out of the ocean, trying to create an AI that keeps plastics out of the ocean. All right, fish, not fish, not fish. It has a bunch of trash, of plastic stuff, light bulb, fish, can, that's a fish, and it gives me more information about the ocean, which is fascinating, but I want to get through it. All right, and it tells me like AI learns from your choices. If you make a wrong choice, AI will repeat your mistake and keep training, which I think is a really cool lesson to help your students know is that the AI is not magic. That's why it's good if you teach this as a pullout. It helps your students understand it. AI is not magic. It just is how it's trained. So fish, I'll do a little more fish, not a fish, not a fish, fish. All right, we're going to continue. Now it's going to, I can run my AI that I just created with a very limited data set, and it's going to work through and identify things as fish or not a fish. And it uses the data that I trained it on. So little objects up a banana peel just got through as being a fish, and a fork is not a fish, banana peel again, tire's not a fish. And so it gets things wrong. A cup is a fish. And the cool thing is, if your students, some of them want to spend hours on this, but the longer you take to train the AI, the more accurate it gets. If you just spend a little, and it really is intentional about showing you that.
Boy, and something that's just popping out to me, I'm watching you do this, and I saw your mistake, okay, but I want to highlight that because what it really brings up again is with AI, the potential for human bias. And so another great learning opportunity is you're going through the quasi-programming experience thinking about, wow, this isn't just how AI learns in a simplistic form, but it's also why it could be dangerous and you can't implicitly trust it. So anyway, continue with your stellar training.
Well, that's great because actually, so you do several different kinds of trainings, and it takes you to asking you to train it in different ways. And then it has these great videos. Oh, that's not one. Hold on. This one, does it belong in the water, is another one. So it gives you an otter or gives as a first option. You're saying whether it belongs in the water or not. Then it gives you another video that talks about training data and bias. So you were on the right you followed the train of thought.
I hadn't done it yet, so I want to commend myself real quick here for highlighting.
Commend yourself. They gave you a train, you got on it, and it took you to the station.
Oh, and can I say one other thing that I really like here? I feel like I'm just along for the ride again. I just want to emphasize Desmond's the pro on this episode. It's fun to watch this because I'm highlighting there's no coding that's taking place so far. And Desmond was highlighting that to me before we, framed this for you guys. Not all of this is about coding. It's about foundational principles. It's about learning computing principles. So I'm actually really loving this lesson because it's not even about coding.
Yes. And it's really cool because it's still the same kind of concepts. Like it's the same things. Like I've done work with AI. I worked for did an internship with an AI company, and a big thing that they did was combating bias. And so I spent a long time really thinking and understanding bias and understanding how the AIs work. It was a really good, powerful experience. But this is how they work. It's a very simple version, but this is how they work. And to make more complex stuff, you add a lot more things to it. But this is the foundation of how AI works. So it's a really good tool. So now I'm on a similar little thing where it says, what type of fish do you want to train an AI on to detect? And it can be red, blue, green, circular, triangular, rectangular. And so then I go through and I select the different ones. But I'm going to go to... Well, the next video, I'm not going to play it again, but it's the social impacts of AI, and that goes even deeper into the bias. This last activity was cool because I've done some of the others in another course I've taught, my AP Computer Science Principles course I've taught. This activity, slightly different, is in there, but this is a whole pull-out lesson. So with bias, this is a great way to teach your students about bias, is now I am choosing a new word to teach the AI. So it gives me words like scary, wild, spooky, endangered. Endangered was a good one. Happy, hungry, playful, delicious, glitchy, fast, fun. And so I'm going to teach the AI these words. Pick one, Aaron. Which one?
Wild.
Wild. Okay, so I'm going to pick wild, which is such an ambiguous word. So now I have to choose which of these fish that have crazy faces. That one looks wild. This next one looks confused.
Yeah.
I'm going to say not wild. This other one looks confused but has big teeth. Is it wild? That's such an ambiguous word. I feel like that's debatable.
I didn't realize how difficult this was going to be when I picked the word. I would say not wild. His hair's a little wild, but the next one, yes, that's a wild fish.
Oh, see, I was thinking that definitely wasn't.
Man,
he just looks nerdy.
Crazy to me.
All right, well, okay, I'm wild. It's
not
so
wild.
You go through.
Sorry, go ahead.
Aaron's going to figure all this in deep. All right, all of our listeners are going to spend hours on this activity. You can do it as a teacher too. So I'm just going to go and select some, and really I'm determining. This is where we get into bias, and this really is a good lesson. I, as the person who is training the AI, am determining what this word wild means. So if I go into ChatGPT and I ask ChatGPT, to define wild for me, well, it doesn't just have that; it gets it from other sources. Well, we're on an AIS episode we weren't even trying to be. So I can go in and I'm just going to go back and forth for a while. And then I can continue, and it's going to run this AI on fish, and it's going to tell me which ones the AI has determined wild or not. And you can watch it and see, well, is that what I actually would have picked? Or like that one that just dropped, I would have probably called wild and it said it wasn't.
That one was wild. For sure. Not wild.
Yeah, but this really indicates bias, and for a couple of reasons. One is I'm the one, or the student's the one who decided what was wild. Also, it's a limited data set. So one of the activities they have is you're just choosing, you do it for a little while, then you run it, and then you go back and you do it longer, and it works better.
Desmond, this is striking me as I'm watching, just enjoying watching. I'm just a bystander here. One of the things we wanted to ask ourselves, and so I was going to ask Desmond this question, but I think I have a partial answer here. It is, where would you teach this? What class would you integrate this with? And, I know probably a lot of you watching, you teach in a school that you provide religious education. If you have a Bible class, wow, imagine that. Just being able to dig into ethics and an ethics conversation from that frame. This would be actually an awesome lesson starter. What about language arts? The meaning of words, definitions. If you're not in a religious education environment, so many great ways to build this in to engage kids. Man, how fun would that be if this is what you're sitting there doing? And then on the back end, you're talking about the meaning of words or ethics. And here you are learning about computers and how programming takes place with AI, a leading edge kind of technology, but it's on topic. And so, wow, that just kind of struck me watching that.
Very well said. I love that. I love the light bulbs. I think you're exactly right. And this is, literacy is a great way to do it. This is, as artificial intelligence, and this is just one lesson. So code.org has things on all sorts of ones, but we want to give you examples on how you would integrate it. As artificial intelligence becomes more prominent, it's a literacy thing, right? Like it is, what is the meaning of words and ideas and like who gets to determine what that is? And we hand that over to an AI. Well, what is the AI basing that off of? What does it know, or really it doesn't know? And this helps you understand that it doesn't know, because it's just basing it off of the training material that it was fit.
And we were really careful and intentional not to make this a digital literacy focus for this episode. This is much more specific. We'll definitely get into digital literacy more later.
Yes. So I just want to go over some other courses that they offer here and that I think are powerful. So there's machine learning stuff. There's advanced placement stuff, which could get the students in high school. You have to do more than just the code.org course, but could get them college credit, which is what I've done. And they have... art. So they have like design stuff in here. They have blockchain, which could be brought into like economics or even so understanding how blockchain works, a security thing. Or they have just basic fundamentals of like how to use a computer for a really little kids. So, one of the things which is probably good for us to do here is, we start our students when they're really little on iPads, and then we eventually give them Chromebooks. But using a touchpad is actually a skill. You got to teach them how to use a touchpad because it's disconnected. Motor skills wise, it's disconnected from the hand to the screen. And so there's actually lessons that teaches them how to drag and drop, which is something that as adults who've done it for decades, we think is second nature. But that's a skill they need to learn how to use. And they have fundamental courses which cover a lot of different things. Coding, there's a lot of coding in here. There's even integrations with Disney and Minecraft. There's sports stuff, maps, and let's see, coding with poetry. I wish I'd said I've done all these, but there's too many for me to have done.
You sparked a memory there. When I got into Hour of Code, they, code.org, had partnered with one of the Minecraft developers. Do you remember this? And he was like such a celebrity to all the junior high kids at that time. And he was there explaining Blockly to them, that drag and drop style of programming that you'll see if you use many of these activities. And I just remember how cool that was, how the kids were so about that. They do a great job of integrating.
I like that.
They really do.
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, they'll teach you how to code games like Flappy Birds, which has been in the news recently with an interesting story. I won't sidetrack. And then I'm trying to think. Oh, physical hardware, which I'm about to teach my 7th and 8th graders, so I might have to see how they teach this because my stuff could be updated. It's been a while since it's been updated. So yeah, they have so many different retro games. They have encryption. Their encryption lessons are really good. And yeah, a lot of integration with Minecraft and music. They can do, create music stuff. So even a music teacher, if you want to teach them about how digital music works, they have that here. Yeah. So that's kind of an overview of code.org. The one I've done, which I also want to tell you guys about this, is Computer Science Principles. Computer Science Principles is an advanced placement class. And where was it? Here. Oh, I got a certificate of completion of that AI thing.
Congratulations.
Sorry, I have too many tabs open. Thank you. I printed it out. Should I put it on my wall?
Man.
I might have to hang that up.
Some street cred with the kids. Is that what it's for?
I think so. Yeah, it's for my students to see. But yeah, so this is the AP Computer Science Principles, which is one of their more advanced. They have a couple of AP classes, courses. This I teach over a whole year. I try to make it a hard class because it is a hard class. Prepare my students, but it covers everything from digital information to like basically how a computer works from the foundation, how networking and the internet work, and then we do some app design, and they actually create their own little app. And so it's fairly basic, but it's really good, and they have a really great environment, an IDE for the kids to learn how to program in. And I really do think that you don't have to have a lot of programming experience to be able to teach this. I'll often tell people that I am a great beginner programmer. I've spent a lot of time teaching beginner programming, but I don't know more advanced than that. But this, you can put the code in here, drag and drop, or change it to showing text, and you can go back and forth, and then you can run your code. So yeah, and they have less activities that are in class activities, and that you do like as a group, or individually.
Well, Desmond, you obviously know your way around code.org. What a great, insightful peek into it. And obviously, if you're sitting here watching like me and you haven't really engaged with it in years, or maybe never, I literally was sitting here thinking, I really want to try that Flappy Bird one. I'm going to do that later.
Do it, man.
So tonight when I go home, maybe. But hey, there's other products, aren't there? So there's maybe even some that you guys have heard of. We want to definitely mention Khan Academy. Khan Academy's come so far. We got embroiled in a conversation about it as a lead up to this episode again as well. And I have a lot of experience on their math side, as a math teacher. That's really what pulled me in, but man, they have continued to just add to their resources, and coding is now one of those resources amongst many other topics. So definitely worth checking out there. What else do you have, Desmond, that's worth checking out?
Yeah, real quick, the Khan Academy. I think the Khan Academy covers a lot of different subjects. And when you're comparing it to something like code.org, one of the big differentiators is, unless they've changed things, this has been a couple years since I've used Khan Academy, but they're much more focused on independent learning, where code.org is kind of both. So I think it depends on what environment you want. If you want your students to do more independent, self-paced learning, go Khan Academy, don't do code.org. If you wanted to be more of an integrated in-class experience and have the students do stuff on their own, more of a traditional format of learning, then something like code.org works really well.
That's a great differentiator. That's been my experience too.
Yeah. And I've had more success with code.org, but that's me. So another one, and I haven't used it, but it's very popular, is Code Academy. Code Academy, and really this is more focused on adults, but you could use it in high school. And it is paid service, except as I was digging into it in preparation for this episode, apparently they now give Code Academy for free if you use Clever, which is a single sign-on service for schools.
Wow.
And so through Clever, you can get Code Academy for free, which is
really
a great
weird
feature.
Reason to give it for free. Sorry,
It must be their way of. It must be their way. You know, as teachers, you've probably experienced. There's a lot of companies that give things free way to educators, but they all do it in different ways and different ways to verify. And so this must be their way of verifying you're a teacher, I guess.
So interesting. I'm scanning their pricing model. I don't see anything on their main pricing page. You probably had to drill down a little bit, or maybe I'm missing it.
Yeah, it was a small little thing. I can't remember where I found it on their page, but yeah, it was. I had the link in here earlier, but I removed it. It was through Clever. It was kind of cool. And then CodeHS, they also had to do the AP Computer Science one. They're more focused on coding, mostly free, but they do have some paid management features. So if you're just dipping your toe into it, doing a few lessons here and there, they're a great coding resource. A lot of them, their tools seems very similar to code.org. But if you are going to be more intensive with it, they don't even have their prices listed. It's like call us is what they tell you. Reach out to us. So I can't tell you if they're too expensive or not. But those are the ones that I've heard the most about. And I think are
and obviously these are just scratching the surface. But if you even just pick one to double down on and really give a spin, clearly code.org is worth checking out. I know I will be checking it out for Flappy Birds, if nothing else.
You got to send me your Flappy Birds creation. Maybe. All right, Aaron, here's the thing. If you do Flappy Birds, they give you a share link in code.org. Here's how you guys know if he actually follows up on this. I'm calling you out right now. Now you have to. It'll be in the show notes eventually if he creates it.
Okay. Well, and not only do I have to do it, I have to do a halfway decent job, right? So
all right,
that'll be in the show notes. But hey, we hope you've enjoyed this episode. Desmond and I have a way of taking a topic that we're passionate about. In this case, Desmond's passion for coding and all things Hour of Code, and just extending it. We know this has been a full almost hour now of talking about Hour of Code and how to integrate it further in your classroom. But we hope you've enjoyed it. We just want to say thank you for joining us on today's journey into EdTech Unpacked as we talked about how to take Hour of Code further in your classroom, really from elementary through high school and even beyond. We featured code.org, of course, Khan Academy, Code Academy, and CodeHS.
Yep. And please send us your EdTech Unpack problems to be solved. We'd love to do some problem solving for you, along with any other feedback you have. You can go find through our website at edtechunpack.com, where you can submit an audio clip. You can just say hi if you want, and tell us how much you appreciate or don't appreciate what we're talking about. And there's also a contact form. You can do the same.
And hey, we've covered a lot. Sometimes it's easy to feel overwhelmed, especially if you've never even tried playing around with coding yourself. It can be intimidating. And we understand that sometimes you can be overwhelmed by the task at hand. We just say, hey, remember that God has a great purpose and place for you in his plan. And we are stronger as we journey together, striving to give our best for the calling of his Spirit. May we always lend a listening ear to our students in need. May our attempts to engage students through technology never interfere with our calling to minister to the heart and soul of students in need. And remember, there's no substitute for great teaching. It's not just about the tools and technology you use, but how you foster meaningful relationships with your students to transform their lives. We'll see you next time.